Let's go. Hello everyone, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are. So, what we're gonna do today is, out of the blue, yesterday, basically, Steinberg released Cubase 14. Unexpectedly. Well, at least for me, unexpectedly. Didn't know that was coming. And let's actually switch here. There we go. Turn the music off. And so I actually sat down today because I wanted to do that in a while, and updated my scoring template. So we can take a look at that today, because I wanted to do in Contact 8 version anyway for a while. So it made sense to now jump onto Cubase 14 and build it straight from there. And I mean, I only have been working a day with Cubase 14. So far, I can say that I'm really, really happy with this update. They did a lot of things right, in my opinion. Still not perfect, so there's still things missing, etc. But I don't want to focus too much on negativity today, but really just go through a bunch of stuff with you guys that I think are awesome and work really, really well. Which is, first and foremost, I'm totally blown away by the performance. So this version of Cubase on my system at least runs like 3 times more efficient, maybe 2.5. I don't know. I haven't measured an actual percentages how much better, but it just feels much more relaxed and snappy, and the GUI looks great. It's now 4K and 8K compatible. I think that it looks really, really good. There is a bunch of new stuff happening that we're gonna take a look at today. So let's get the stuff out of the way first, because I'm talking about the scoring template today and the update. If you already own the scoring template, the update will come tonight. You're thinking about switching from Studio One back to Cubase for this new version. That's exactly what I'm doing right now, because yeah, honestly, I have been working in Studio One for a while now because I was so unhappy with Cubase 13, or most importantly with the CPU performance. Something was off in 13. So, oh, come on, go. And now I get distracted. Sorry for that. So I have been happily working in Studio One 7 so far. But I mean, I am Cubase through and through from the beginning, from the get-go. So Cubase is my home turf. And so I was happy when that version came along. And there's just a lot of stuff in this update now that Studio One and other DAWs have been having for a while already. Like the pattern editor and things like that. We're gonna look into that. So right now, yes, I'm back on Cubase because I'm pretty happy with how it performs and how it works. And I'm just so much more confident and comfortable in the MIDI editing in Cubase than I am in Studio One. Studio One is still a little bit of fiddling around, and it's not like I'm abandoning it completely. They both have their place. And something I tried today, which is really, really cool, Cubase now can read DAW project files, which is a relatively new format. Yes, the updated scoring template will be for free. You will get an email that there is an update available once I uploaded that. So what did I want to say? I got distracted. I forgot. I would have to rewind the video and watch what I last said. But yeah, the update for the scoring template is going to be free. And so right now in the shop, I mentioned in the beginning of the stream, we'll probably talk a little bit about Black Friday as well. And since everyone and their grandmother seems to jump on Black Friday 2 weeks early now, at least that was what it feels like in my inbox. already getting all these Black Friday gigs. The Black Friday is still like 2.5 weeks away and everyone is already selling. So I jumped the bandwagon as well. So right now, if you head over to the shop, if you want to grab something in the shop, there's currently 50% off everything with code fall 2024 at checkout. So if you want to support this channel in any type of way, that will be the best way to do it. Just grab some nice stuff, and now it's cheap. 50% off. Back to the scoring template and to Cubase. So first, let me quickly check if the audio is working. Can you hear this? No reply, so I just hope it comes through. So for those of you not in the know, what is the scoring template? The scoring template is basically my day in, day out working template that I use to create production music, film scores, all that kind of stuff. Well, film scores, not so much. Don't have a video track in here. Mostly for production music. So it covers a broad range of styles that I wanna that I'm creating within the same template. And the main difference is this is not specific on any certain type of library. So it's not a Nucleus template, not a Jaeger template or orchestral tools, things like that. It's basically my most used tools that I use to write and work with, starting with strings, cinematic studio strings, my still all-time favorite, closely followed by performance samples, Pacific, Fluid Shorts, Vista, Audio Imperia, Jaeger is in here for some more beefier stuff, a little bit of orchestral tools, Metropolis Arc, some chamber strings, a little bit of Spitfire, Stressor sampling. I should update that probably to some new Stressor sampling stuff like the contour strings, but I will also talk a little bit about why it doesn't really matter what libraries are on there, because it is kind of modular in a way that the goal is, first of all, having you have a template that works right out of the gate without worrying too much about mixing and stuff like that, but also to make it very easy to replace stuff with the libraries that you own and that you work with, because not everyone works with the same libraries that I do. So if I have cinematic studio strings here, you might be working with Spitfire symphonic strings, but it's very straightforward and easy to replace these instruments. And especially with a new version of Contact 8, which I really, really like, I have to admit, it makes it even more convenient to browse through sounds and check out different things. We will look at that in a little bit, in a little more detail. So, and then, yeah, brass, cinematic studio brass, orchestral tools. I think that's a little bit of, yeah, again, Metropolis Arc. Didn't even have JXL in here. Performance samples, Caspian. Again, Audio Imperia, some stuff. Music sampling user. I use that a lot for trailer productions. Some woodwinds, bunch of percussion. So roughly overall, we can see that here. It's roughly 700 tracks, including the groups. So the instruments on their own, if I take the groups off, are, yeah, a little bit more than 500 tracks. And all these tracks are disabled in the template, so you don't need anything else, although I would highly recommend a relatively beefy system. Dirk, hey, good to see you. Yeah, no individual track delay on articulation maps. That's indeed something they should put high on the priority list, but they haven't for this update. And I want to focus on the stuff that is in there, not on the stuff that is not in there. So basically, to make a long story short, the scoring template is my personal template that I work with basically day in, day out when it comes to writing music. And one of the biggest features of that is that I do have a stem limiting system in place for this template. What this means is I oftentimes get requested to deliver stems that equal the master at 100%, so that they I'm not really getting requests that these files cancel each other out, but everyone tells me, or a lot of people tell me, we need to have the stems sound as close as possible to the master when they are summed up. And since there is it's a little bit tricky to have stems equal to the master at 100% so that they cancel each other out, and even more tricky when it comes to doing that in a live situation. There's no problem in writing something and then exporting the stems and then doing the mastering afterwards in an extra session and combine these to have the stems printed exactly as the master. That's totally fine, but I want to make this process as pain-free as possible, and my ideal solution for me always was like hit one button and be done with that. So after writing, just hit export and all the files are there ready to go for the client. That's the idea of the template. Hey brother, good to see you or read you. So there is a stem print option in place for this template. I don't want to toot my own horn, but it's a little bit sophisticated in terms of for this template to work, you definitely need the Pro L2 from FabFilter. There is a list on the website on the page for the template, what is all included and what is kind of absolute minimum necessary to run it. But even with that being said, so looking at the template, there is a lot going on already without even instruments loaded. So just this is the print stem area. These are the stems that I can print for the client, which is currently strings long, strings short, brass, woodwinds, keys, synth, guitars, ethnic, bass, vocals, percussion, tonal percussion, drums, sound effects, tonal, and sound effects, which is booms, rises, all that kind of stuff. These are the stems that I usually deliver for productions. And hey, Yura, didn't see you there. Good to see you. Hope you're well. So these run and print directly onto the stereo mix. And as you can see on the stereo mix, there's no further processing. All the processing when it comes to mastering and getting stuff out to the client happens here in this area. And the difference with stem limiting is that instead of this limiter reacting to the strings that come through on this channel, it actually reacts to the full mix. And this is what makes it a little bit more complicated in setting it up, and especially for live usage. There is a few drawbacks that you just have to take when you want to be able to still play live and like compose. For example, I cannot really go into a different limiting style while live working. So I cannot go for the punchy or transparent, because that raises the amount of pre-delay necessary for the plugin to work. So that goes up to like 60 milliseconds, and then it's like hitting a key and then you can grab a coffee until the sound rings. So I found a way to kind of do the best of both worlds. I get my master limiting with all the routings in place, while still being able to play live and record my stuff live. Which means I can just jump to my piano, for example, and have just a tiny amount of delay while playing. So, and since we are talking about Cubase 14 and all the stuff that is new, let's take a look at, so we will probably simply write a little bit of a cue and see what we can come up with. So for that, I'm probably gonna add a few instruments. So let's add a little bit of a short ensemble, Jaeger. Oh, and I forgot to mention one of the other things is that all the samples that are in the template are pre-mixed based on my sound aesthetics. So all of these channels have a virtual mix rack channel emulation in the beginning, usually set to a Neve. Some of these plugins do have a little bit of compression going on already with the Slate stuff. Most of the magic, I would say, happens with the following Pro Q3. I have a lot of different settings for these EQs, and the template comes with all these EQs in place. Sometimes there's disabled options depending if I want a different sounds on the piano, for example. If I write something where I need a little bit more high end, I can just... And we're still talking subtle changes here. It's not like... Yes, I do have... Actually, I do have Oak Sound Bloom, and I love it in my template. It's absolutely amazing. I don't have it in this template because I tried to have this as accessible as possible. But what I will probably do if I have this template and I do own Oak Sound Bloom, especially on the short strings, I think it does an amazing job. So I would go to my processing stems, which are these here. And then I would probably add Bloom after the other plugins to have my strings a little more better sounding. You could also just put it on, well, you could not really put it on a master because then you would change the way this whole thing works. So if you want to have it on every track, then you would have to have it on every stem. But I'm fine with having it on the strings and usually on the percussion. And the funny thing is I leave this at default. I don't do anything with it. The only thing that I'm doing is I switch, at least for live working, I switch the quality to low latency. So it doesn't take too much room away in terms of latency. When we look at the channel here, if I, right now, this is at 3.4 milliseconds. If I have this in normal mode, it's like 25 milliseconds. So that adds on top to all the latency that I already have going on with the 60 milliseconds from the limiter, etc. So I keep this on low latency for live mode and possibly change that to normal or high upon export if need be. But I already found that low latency is totally fine and sounds amazing. So if I do just a little bit of a short riff here, and that of course is with the sample delay on. So let's just quickly put that down. That's too slow. 120 for the win. Well, and obviously I need to put my sample delay back on. Kind of like that. So what I'm going to do, go in here. The MIDI editor itself in Cubase 14 does not look that much different from the versions before. So that is all very welcome. But the first thing that I want to get onto right away, this is not quantized. So obviously when I play that back right now, I mean, it's not too shabby, but it's also not really in time. But let's take a quick look at the first feature in Cubase 14, which is the new score editor. So if I hit Command R, I'm gonna look at this in the new Dorico style score editor. Look at that. And right now it looks a little weird, but what we can do is we can quantize the notes. So remember, it already looks much better than before in the old Cubase version. When it was not exactly on the grid, it was a total mess with breaks and everything in between, similar to what we see here. And what we can now do is we can quantize the score editor independent from our performance here. So if you, for example, have instruments where you have to nudge the legatos around a little bit, if you want to create a score out of that, back in the day, which was like 2 days ago, we had to quantize hard to the grid to make sure that these notes are properly in place. With the new, that's the first time me trying that. I haven't done that yet. So actually, let me see if it works. If I click on display quantize, I can say regular, let's do 8th notes, and tuplets, let's do 16th. And hit display quantize. What happens? Nothing happens. Okay, then, oh, now it did it. It already did it. One click. Oh, I have to click on the score to actually have the display quantize on. So is there still anything off? No, it looks fine to me. So this itself is already pretty big, in my opinion. So if you have a single melody line, let's go to the piano and record something on top. So we are in C minor, so okay. So that is live played, no quantizing. Looking at the score, again, it's a little off because I was a little bit too far off there. But if I say, please, and that is just quarter notes. So please quantize that with quarter notes. I have to click it once, I think. There we go. So now, and the thing is, the visuals are quantized, but it's still the same in the actual MIDI. So if I can now quantize after the fact. This is amazing because I can take that, send it off to my musician and have them play that on top. If need be, right? If you need a cello or a singer or something, here's your score. That is so much more convenient to have that right within Cubase without the need for Dirk or anything. That's pretty cool. That's pretty amazing in my opinion. And I can also switch in the score editor between the ones that I just used. So I guess, I don't know. Again, I just grabbed this yesterday. It's still new for me as well. So if I look at the, I have to double click. Okay, if I double click, then I can see look at the score. Can I do 2 scores at once? No, I can only select this one or this one. All right, but still, it's fine. So that is not too bad. So first new thing in Cubase, score editor. Not the full Dorico functionality, but it's based on the same system. So there's probably going to be some deeper integration with Dorico itself later down the line. So we have I'm pretty sure as well, all I have to do to see the full score is just select both. So if I say, yeah, there you go. So now I have the full score. I just have to select all the events that are part of the score. So there you go. Back to the MIDI editor. There's a few new things in here as well. First of all, we can go back to the volume. So let's equal that a little bit. So they're a little bit more similar. Okay, cool. That works all the way as it did before. Okay, let's say that's a little much. So another thing that is pretty cool, we have new parameters here, which is play probability and velocity variance. Let's start with the velocity variance. So that means you can change the velocities without changing the velocity. So if I draw a curve like that, that changes the velocity playback, but not the velocity of the notes themselves. So basically, it's a different way of editing the velocities. If I have that very loud, I could go into the velocity variance and say, okay, you all play a little quieter. Without the variance, I keep that where it was. I'm not really sure. I have to figure that out, how I can unify all these values at once. I think just with the line tool, that might be the best way to do it. Yeah, grab the line tool and there you go. That is one thing, but the thing that excites me even more, especially when it comes to percussion programming, is the play probability. And this thing is really cool because what this does is randomly or based on a percentage chance play certain notes or doesn't play them. So if I say, let's play this loop. Let's say we have a top line here in eighth notes. Just going to quickly record that on top. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to do this now. So, okay, let's say we have this top line and we want to play this in loop. Actually, let's make this a little bit more equal. So I'm going to go back to the velocity. Make these a little bit more even and a little louder so we can hear them better. There we go. All right. Right, so if we have that on loop, it like keeps going down and down. And will get very boring very soon. So what we can do is we can take the play probability, select our notes up here and say, okay, I only want to play them on, say, I don't know, 60%? 60% of the time. So they shall not play all the time, just sometimes. So right now, these top line notes will only play like 60% of the time, which sounds like this. Which I think is pretty amazing. I like that a lot. Could even go in and say, actually, let's do this in 16th notes. I keep the probability as it is on these. So I'm gonna go with 16th notes. And you see that, I don't know if you can see that on YouTube, these notes now have a little bit of a diagonal lines on them, which means these are now part of the probability equation. Whereas the normal notes that are not in the probability mode don't have that line. So there's a visual feedback as well. So if we duplicate these till the very end, and just the last one gets an extra note there. So again, probability all the way up would mean they play all the time. Right, so there's a lot going on there, and it's a little bit uninteresting. So let's undo this and have the probability at, say, roughly 50%. So these notes will play only half the time. It doesn't mean that every second note plays, or that two notes play, two notes don't. It is a randomization. with a 50% chance of being played or not being played. It can still happen that you have 3 notes in a row that don't get played or 5 notes in a row that do get played. But it happens randomly, and this is what, in my opinion, makes it very interesting. So if we now play this with the 16th line on top, and if we, for example, feel, okay, that's very weird, that's if I mute the others, we can hear that this is currently very chaotic. If I don't like that it's too chaotic, I can still say, okay, the downbeat, let's give me a higher probability on the downbeat, so I hear more of the one. Even to the point that I could say, give me all the downbeats. But I do like the fact to not have it all the time, but a higher probability for the downbeats instead of the in-between beats feels a little bit more interesting to me. And I could even change that a little more by saying, okay, these middle notes, these middle 16th here, get less probability than the other ones. So right now it sounds like this. I do like this random functionality. It just makes it a little bit more fun to experiment, and maybe, who knows, you might come up with an idea based on the rhythmic variation there in the randomization. Versus without the randomization. So I think it's not only something that is can you tell me how to set up zoom in out like a Studio One on Cubase? I try to change shortcuts, but I can't find the mouse settings. I actually have a hard time going back between Cubase and Studio One because of the zoom stuff, because in Studio One you cannot change the way the zoom behaves. And so in Cubase, the left and right scroll, which centers around the mouse position. So if I go to the front of the MIDI region and move the mouse wheel, it's Control and mouse wheel. Then depending where your mouse is, if I go to the end, it zooms in at the end. If I go to the beginning, it zooms in at the beginning. So, and in the center, it zooms around the center, right? So it is mouse position dependent. So then we have Control and Shift and mouse wheel, which is the vertical zoom in Cubase. And then we have Shift and mouse wheel, which is scrolling. And that is kind of the same behavior in the overview. So Control and mouse wheel is on the mouse wheel position, zoom in and out. So if I go to here, then it zooms there. If I move the mouse to the beginning, it zooms there, right? And Shift mouse wheel is back and forth scrolling. And then Control and Shift and mouse wheel is the height of the tracks. Don't see a difference here because I have a fixed height for the selected track, which is my preferred way of working, of clicking a track and then it expands. If the other tracks are bigger than my selected one, then suddenly my selected track would be smaller, right? So you get the idea. Yeah, Control mouse is for the most part the way that I utilize. I oftentimes, because I did that before, I still have like G and H ingrained into my muscle memory. So H is and G is scrolling in Cubase. That's the standard command. Doesn't even work with Shift. I don't know if there's a key command for vertical scroll. Probably there is. I should look that up. But again, Control and mouse is your friend. Control Shift mouse. Alt mouse doesn't do anything. Control Alt mouse doesn't do anything either, at least on my system. Haven't set up anything for that. So trying to read on with the chat. What kind of zoom? GH, there you go. Very impressed so far what I hear in CNC 14. Same here, but the same moment very mad to myself because I'm already... Oh, you're like right behind the grace period. I mean, that sucks, but even if first of all, what I really like, this update is 99 instead of usually 149. So that's $50 less already. And yeah, it is what it is. But I understand your frustration. Sometimes it can be a little bit frustrating to miss the mark there by a few days, worst case scenario. But it is what it is. All right. And you have a 60-day trial. So you can, if you count that on the price for the time you're using it, if you deduct 2 months of using it for free because you can check out the trial, you get my point. So it's fine. And I think that this update specifically is very, very much worth it, the price of admission for a bunch of these features that come with the program. Let's delete these guys here and take a look at some of the new stuff that comes in Cubase. Let's open up Diva for a little bit of a pedally pad sound. Presets. Let's go with my favorite, Mr. The Unfinished. So let's load a pad sound here. Okay, take Dexter, right? So, and there's a lot of knobs on here that we can play around with. Cubase does have something new. Cubase 14, which is called Modulators. If you are not familiar with synth programming, as I am, a modulator is a usually can be, for example, an LFO, a low frequency oscillator. Remember that sine wave going up and down? And instead of, say, let's look at the filter, for example, the filter cutoff here. So instead of us moving that filter cutoff around on our own, wouldn't it be nice if we can automate that? Which of course we can. We can learn that to a MIDI controller and put it on a mod wheel, for example. Or we can write automation data if we play this just back and set this track to read or write my controls. It would immediately write this modulation data, right? I think we all have been there and done that, and that's all good and fine. So let's turn this off. We don't want automation right now. But what if there's a way to make that a little bit more sophisticated? So Cubase now has modulators. What does that mean? So we can go in the lower range, click on modulators, and here we see. This is what is new in Cubase 14. Bitwig users may know that. I think Studio One doesn't have anything like that. And I was recently thinking of something. Would be cool to have a modulator for MIDI data. Anyway, let's look at the LFO, for example. So we add an LFO, and here you can see the sine wave that I just talked about. That's one possibility. And here on the plus, I can add a connection. If I click on plus, it already says learn. And now I can click on this button here. And see this? Now this button moves in the same way this modulator does. So that's already pretty cool. And then, like with any modulator, I can change a lot of the parameters down here. So I can, I just realized that you cannot see that because of my picture. Sorry for that. Gonna move myself up there. You go in the corner, stay there. So, all right. Actually, I should do this again now. Let's delete this whole thing. Where's delete the whole thing? There's delete the whole thing. Yes, remove. Okay, so again, lower panel now has a new entry here called Modulators. We have LFO, envelope follower, shaper, macro knob, step modulator, and mod scripter. So let's go with the LFO. And here we now finally can see the waveform that I talked about before, the sine wave. And to add a destination, in this case, the cutoff, I click on plus. It already sits on learn, and I just click on the cutoff. And now we can see how the cutoff already is moving with the LFO. And now I can change the values, and I can change the amount, which I have not really tried yet how to actually do this. I can change the polarity, so it just moves in one direction. And here, modulation depth, that's the one I was looking for. So the modulation depth is the amount, how much of this knob gets moved. So let's make this a little more subtle, like 30% from its current position. So, and by the way, bipolar means it's moving. Let's delete this once more. So if I have my knob in the middle here, bipolar means it moves to the left and to the right. So like this, back and forth. And let's turn make it a little bit slower, like this. So left to right. And unipolar means it only modulates from its current position, back and forth. So depending on what you want to achieve, with a panning knob, for example, it would make a lot of sense to go bipolar in both directions, left and right. Xenos, yeah, we just looked at the score editor, which is a great feature. So definitely a big improvement. So when we play that with the modulator now. So you get the idea. We get this movement, but there's a little more to it. First of all, based on the shape, you can easily create rhythmic effects. So for example, if we set this to, say, eighth notes. And depending on the depth, how much we modulate. So if we bring this all the way down so that we start at the 0 position and go all the way up, so we get the full opening of the filter at the beginning, we get that really nice. And I could also put this modulation onto the volume, for example. So I just have to find it. I'm not a synth programmer. Where's my Diva volume? Tune LFO. I mean, I could probably just say assign this. It does not work with drag and drop, by the way. Open a separate window. Where do I assign another? Oh, plus. So I could assign. Yeah, okay, there we go. So now I could say you all go. And this, I think, makes it a little bit different to what a transgate would do. So I can also say, get me on and off. what I would love to see, which I don't know if they currently have that. First of all, I can add more modulation sources with these arrows. That's totally fine. What I would love to see, and maybe that's already there, I haven't studied the manual on that. I would love to be able to change the bit depth universally. Like have one fader here that changes all the bit depth in relation to each other. That would be cool, because right now I have to individually go in and change these if I want to change them, especially if I have several automations, several targets set up for the modulation. And then you can, of course, play around with a bunch of these settings, different shapes, different length. So which is pretty cool. And that is just one of these. So we have a bunch of more. We have the envelope follower, which is cool if you, for example, play the pad and listen to a drum loop. We have the shaper, macro knob, and the step modulator is pretty cool as well. So let's add another time the target for the cutoff. And so here I can now set different steps. And that is very similar to a trans gate, obviously. But what's also cool is, beside the actual plugin, I could also say, okay, give me the same effect on my volume fader for that track. Funny enough, my pre-sound is jumping up and down right now because I'm actually, let's delete this. Time to show another plugin that Cubase has added, which I probably haven't even added yet to my plugin list, so I should probably quickly do this. So VST effects, vendor Steinberg. So what I'm going to do is just going to quickly take all my Steinberg plugins and move them into my Steinberg folder. That way I now have the new ones in here as well. All right, so they added a simple gain plugin that allows you to automate your volume for your track without touching the master fader, which is pretty cool. Sometimes you need that, and sometimes you need that for gain staging purposes. So let's quickly find it. I have no idea what it's called. That's my problem right now. If anyone knows in the chat, please let me know. Otherwise, I have to look for it. But it's probably gain or fader. What resolution is my monitor at? Everything is so small. I'm transmitting in 2560 and I'm on a 4K screen. So yeah, it might be a little smaller than it should be. I'm not streaming in 4K, unfortunately. I still cannot do this. My internet gives me the middle finger if I try that. So it's kind of a workaround. I could try to increase the... I mean, I could probably go in and change my resolution settings. General. Why do I have that on -25? Yeah, I have to restart Cubase to have that work. Actually, let's do this. Okay, quickly save, restart Cubase. And that allows us to quickly go into talk mode. There we go. So I just did what I tried this afternoon accidentally, changing the presets in a synth with the modulators, but it does only do it one time. Modulate the presets? That's kind of funny. Why would you want to do that? So let's restart, and hopefully the display is a little bigger then. Well, you can modulate anything in Contact, I assume, so it's a great feature for orchestral composers. True, you can absolutely address a bunch of Contact features. Generative ambient music, that makes a lot of sense. So let's open the scoring preset again. Which is also a nice feature to, or nice reminder that the CTO shop has a fall sale going on. As I mentioned in the beginning of the stream, everybody and their grandmother is doing Black Friday sales at the end of October. So I'm jumping the same ship. 2 weeks, 50% off everything, including this template we're looking at right now. With code FALL 2024, FALL, all capital letters, 2024 at checkout. Which means the scoring template is the cheapest it's ever been if you want to have the same template to work with. All right, we're back, and hopefully it looks a little better now. Should be bigger. Looks a lot bigger on my end. Maximilian, how do your sessions save so fast? Do you have any recommendations to improve saving times? One more thing, why I tell you, the only thing that I can recommend is upgrade to Cubase 14, because the loading and save times are so much more rapid than it was on Cubase 13. It's absolutely, for me, it's mind-boggling how fast it runs. I mean, I have most of these tracks disabled, so it is still my big template with 700 tracks. And if I'm gonna save this as, I want to quickly check how big is it. Contact 814. So it's nearly 500 megabytes, so half a gigabyte. The project file is half a gigabyte. But right now, if I click on save, 1, 2, not even 2 seconds. So it will rise in time a little bit when you activate more instruments. We'll probably see that when I'm activating a few more. So let's quickly go back to the modulators to finalize that. So what this is doing is, has anybody mentioned what this plugin is called, this new one in Steinberg? Is it gain? Is it fader? Let's quickly go through MIDI decoder, M7, auto filter, auto pump, crusher, black valve. We also have a new delay, by the way, which we could look at. Volume. It's called volume. That makes a lot of sense, to be honest. Volume, yeah. So that is a new plugin, which is a simple gain controller plugin in Cubase. And instead of me automating this actual volume fader, I could then put the modulation onto the fader here. So now, and if I go all the way down, set this to unipolar, go here and say, okay, give me all the way modulation depth. Well, not all the way, like there. My first point of critique would be, even though having this volume plugin as an extra plugin to automate the volume without touching the main fader, which is pretty cool overall as an idea. But guys, the look of it next to the other fader, at least have it consistent and have it look the same as the original fader. That kind of is it is a little bit ugly, I feel. Not the same as the actual fader. I really like the mix console. By the way, another new feature. The mix console features now full functionality as the mixer has. So you can now see all the sends, inserts, and you can see all the channel types in the mixer. And even more importantly, which is also really, really cool, you can now, there we see we have the second patch loaded. We can now swap channels in the mixer console. So if I click here and hold and drag it over, no, that didn't work. Does it not work from the console? Only from the actual mixer console? I haven't tried that. So if I go into the mixer and grab the channel, I can move the channel over and it follows along here. So now Diva is at the bottom, and so it seems I can only do it in the actual mixer. I can't do it on the lower area mixer, which is fine. Not a big issue. Just wanted to point out that this is possible now. So I can grab it, and now we have Diva on top and Zebra is gone. Where's my Zebra gone? I moved it. Where's my Zebra gone? What did I do? So much for explore Cubase with me. I can hear it, but I cannot see it. What happened? That's strange. Where did my... Oh, probably move. No, I didn't. Okay, let's make this very quick. Show hide disabled tracks. So there's my Diva. Okay, show instrument tracks. Nope. Oh, for whatever reason, it moved it to guitar audio. So that was not intended. I don't know why that happened. But anyway, you can move tracks from the mix console window as well as... Okay, that's why I think I accidentally moved it over there, which is already the guitar group. Yeah, so grabbing that, and I can move that over here. So now, yeah, there you go. That's how it works. Track moving works in the lower window as well. Okay, let's try that again. For whatever reason, maybe it was not big enough. So if I grab this track here, okay, it works here as well. I think it just didn't work when I cannot drag from here. I have to have this window open, which is only open if the sensor closed or if I bring this far enough up. It was like this before, and there's nowhere. Oh, I can drag the name. Okay, I can grab it here. So you cannot click next to the fader. Okay, even that works now. It's weird. Sometimes it seems to work and sometimes it doesn't. Okay, there we go. So at least the thing is you can now rearrange in the arranger window as well as in the mixer window, which is really, really cool. Hey, Seven. Yeah, and since we just looked at the volume channel here, one thing that I have to admit I haven't seen yet, I cannot see the modulators that I just put in place here, even on the instrument interface that is still open. Oh, here, see this little blue line at the top? There you go. We have the modulators here, but this is only the modulator for this. The other modulator is probably, yeah, okay. So this is new in Cubase. We have these modulators either on the plugin itself where we can access it, or we have to open the lower zone. So lower zone, going back to modulators, and there we are. Let's delete this. No more modulation on this. And Ram just asked, that's fine, since we do have 2 other new plugins in Cubase, which is a new delay and a new reverb. Steinberg mixer, multi-tap, ping pong, stereo, delay, mixer, delay, multi-tap. I have to open the Steinberg website because I forgot what the name of the delay was. Cubase 14 new features. Cubase 14 new features. What's it called? Studio delay. Okay, studio delay makes a lot of sense. Studio. Oh, sorry, I disabled Zebra. Once more. Studio delay. There we go. Again, just think about the fact, if we look at the old delay, for example, the stereo delay, which was refreshed in Cubase 13, and some other plugins had a refreshment in Cubase 13 as well, especially when we look at, for example, their new tube compressor that they added, the whole vocal range stuff, the vocal channel strip and all that kind of stuff, vocal chain. When we look at the graphics for this, I really feel that they could have been a little bit shown a little bit more love to the interface of the studio delay. It just looks very meh. I'm not talking about the functionality, and I haven't even tried that yet. So when we set the mix to 50-50, which I currently have to figure out where that actually is. Mix. Oh, I still have the stereo delay going on. And the vocal chain. So you all go away. So now we have just the studio delay. There we go. So 50% is... So we have different pattern. Left, right. So these little icons show you what's happening. We have 1 repetition. And I think I still have my, I have my own sense going on still. So that's just the internal. Make it bigger. Can I? Yes. Okay. I can make that bigger. So at least that's one thing. That plugin is scalable to whatever size, but give it a little bit of texture. That plain gray looks very, very not good. So then we have 2 repetitions, left, right. I love some overdrive on delays. Just wonder if I need to turn it on. Post. Okay, let's... I feel that the overdrive is relatively mild. We can add a little bit of chorus. Can have it less spatial. Right now we're at 50-50, so it's quite a lot of delay. So if we turn that down a little. Next pattern. Oh, okay. With we have a little preview sample sound that you can listen to the patterns. That makes a lot of sense. I don't know if you can change. Yeah, you can change that. And then, of course, we have a bunch of presets. Pad, Evil, Dark, Electropop. Yeah, and we have a pitch shifter in here as well. I'm just thinking of something. Add a modulator. And by the way, you don't have to open the lower zone. On plugins, you can just add this little button here and add a modulator here. So let's put a LFO. That I just opened in the lower zone, so I can edit it a little better. So let's put that on 2 bars and very subtly learn the pitch. So obviously that's not subtle. So let's say like 1%, 2%. So now that's still too much. So 1%. So that's pretty cool. I like that. And basically all of these parameters can be modulated with these modulators. So I can have the overdrive learned as well. Unipolar, say we start there. And if I would need a different timing for that, I could add a new modulator. So actually, let's delete this and say, okay, I want to modulate this, but not as fast or slower. So I could say, set this to 3 and say, learn modulation. And now learn the distortion. Now it's, this one is running in 2 and this one is running in 3. I want to set this to unipolar. So starting at the bottom with more range. Remember, we are coming from here. So that's just the studio layer. I do like what you can do with this. But please put a little bit of texture on the GUI. It looks so meh with plain gray. A little bit of niceness to the interface will help. It looks a little weak, especially compared to some of the other plugins that are part of Cubase, stock plugins. So remove that, delete all of them, remove. So no more modulation. All right. So that is that. Next one. What else do we have? Let's quickly take a look. Oh, yeah, of course. Most importantly, for drums, we have a new instrument. Not the standard Groove Agent SE or any other version that you have in Cubase for drums, which are basically drum sample machines. We have a new dedicated drum plugin instrument. By the way, I just forgot, someone asked not only about the delay, but also about shimmer. So the other new plugin that we have in Cubase is a shimmer reverb. Actually, I think that would make a lot more sense with a little bit of a guitar to it. So let's actually do this. Let's load electric guitar. That comes in through. There we go. Let's turn these off and use just the Steinberg internal M simulation. Nothing fancy. So Steinberg does have the M simulator. Could use this or VST amp rack. There we go. So we have a bunch of different amps to choose from. Let's go with something British clean. Clean. Little combo, clean phaser, clean. Just plain clean. Right, like this, and then after the amp rack, let's put our shimmer reverb that we just have from Steinberg, new Cubase 14 plugin. And we could probably add the, that was very weird, sorry, my foot pedal went haywire. So that's the shimmer. Do we have some guitar presets? Distant afterglow. That's mix 100%, I guess. Probably use the last. Okay, let's add the delay before the shimmer. So that is studio delay. Do we have a little guitar preset here? Electric power chord echoes, electric guitar pop pattern radio. And let's beef up the amp just a tiny little bit. More compression. Let's go to the neck. Chorus, maybe. I think it's a fine addition, but if I compare that to the original Valhalla shimmer, I mean, it's not the same. I think I should maybe cut the highs a little more. Okay, different guitar preset. Let's go bonkers. What do we have? Electric solo diamond octaves. And this one is at 100%. That's why I'm hearing just the delay. Yeah, so kind of get the idea. Nice additions there. The delay for sure. The shimmer, I probably think you can do a lot with that as well. So if you don't have like the Valhalla shimmer, or delay would be similar to Echo Boy from Sound Toys, there's a lot that you can do with these plugins. Going on. We were at the drum. So yeah, right here. So drum machine. That's the new plugin. I'm gonna send this to my drum bus just to make sure that we sending that correctly. So you go to drums. There we go. Right now we don't hear anything because there's no samples or sounds loaded. We can click on the preset name, and that opens up the preset browser, the media bay for this specific instrument. So let's start with BeatStarter 1. And as we can hear nothing because for whatever reason it didn't activate my monitoring. Here we go. And these sounds are not samples. These sounds are generated. This is a drum synth. So that means I can change all these sounds quite significantly, quite drastically. And I have different sound sources for these kicks. I have 4 different ways how these kicks are generated. I can add more click or less. Obviously, you can change the pitch envelope. If I need more beef in the beginning. Or the other way around. Coming from the bottom, we have an amp envelope. I can add distortion. And then obviously the amplifier settings. And then I also have delay and reverb per pad. And I can see the group where it belongs to. I can set choke settings like with any other drum plugin as well. So let's say I don't like the snare. Let's try something else. I don't like that either. And we have different slots, so we can layer that with other stuff. So on the second slot, I can either drop a sample or generate another snare or put a clap on top on the snare, for example. So now I have a clap on this. Don't want that. So let's add a sample to layer the snare with. So I'm going to my media bay, probably go to file browser. I could also go into the actual media bay, loops and samples, find something in here. I haven't installed all of the Cubase stuff. But let's filter down. We're looking for snare drum. And this gives us an opportunity to quickly look at the media bay. There's a bunch of things that have changed here as well. We now can preview in key if our session has a key, which we haven't done yet with the chord track. We can half tempo, double tempo, play it in time. We even have a tape option to slow down the sample. And this, I think, activates autoplay. No, it doesn't. Shift Enter, by the way, is preview. It might be that you cannot hear the preview right now because it's coming only through my headphones. So, but what I can do is I can grab the snare and put it onto the second layer. Now I have a snare there. Where before I had just had the synthesized one, now I have that second snare on top. And I can still fiddle around with it and tune it and change the envelope and things like that, make it much tighter. And then I can change the level. So that's pretty cool, and I can turn it off. So I can really quickly kind of create my own sounds and samples by combining different samples. And so this is the actual instrument, and where this really starts to make fun, and something that I really love doing, is you can work in patterns in Cubase now, which wasn't possible before. So what we can do is double click here and look at this. Now we have a very different view than our regular MIDI or drum editor. This is a pattern editor, and I'm not really sure why it moved the kick to the bottom. I don't like that. How do I rearrange that? Rename. There must be a way to move these lanes around. It shouldn't be at the bottom. I'm not really sure why this is doing this right now. It doesn't make sense to me. Or backward alternating. So because it would make a lot of sense to have like kick, snare, C1. Where can I move this around? I'm pretty sure there's a way. Right click does not work. If anyone knows why this lane is... Thanks, Jess, dude. Yeah, I know that I can change the preview, but then I don't hear it anymore because then it's coming through the speakers, which are off right now. And I'm not really sure why this pad is at the bottom. Anyway, let's fiddle around a little bit. So what we can do is, so now we see this is running. I'm actually putting this on loop. So I can now add manually my steps in here. Right, like this. Or if we take this off again, there's some neat little features. I have an idea. It might be because I'm in the lower zone in the editor. Let's open this up. There we go. And so now I see, but I still cannot move it. I can add lanes. So anyway, the thing is I can now fill, and I don't need this. I can do this in the lower zone. So I can fill these steps either manually, like I just did with just clicking, or I can use these presets here. So I can generate every second, or every fourth. There we go. and go to the snare. So then I can generate also every fourth, but I don't want that. So let's turn the volume down on this one a little bit. And also turn the volume down on the kicks where the snare hits. And we can say and this is where also the probability function comes in. So I can have these offbeats only play like every 33% of the time. So they don't come anytime they hit. So that's pretty nice. So we have the closed hi-hat. I can fill this with with seconds. And what I like, I can also quickly randomize the volume, for example. So if that's something you fancy. Oh, by the way, I randomized the probability, not the volume. Velocity, there we go. So just a little bit of randomization. And maybe on the last one we do an open hi-hat. Right? So, and this is a pattern that right now plays indefinitely. But if I duplicate this, and how do I create a new pattern? So I'm pretty sure it's here, new pattern, duplicate pattern, there we go. So now this is pattern 1, and I can do this pattern 2. So pattern 1 is going to have a symbol at the 1, and I'm probably going to have to move this over. So then this is going to become pattern 2, and there's no symbol. So we have so, and I mean, this is all basic stuff. That's pretty much what every pattern sequencer can do. But where it really gets interesting is that we can have different subdivisions, for example. So we can easily create insane polyrhythms. So let's take the low conga, for example, and set the grid for the conga to triplets. So we can fill this with every third note, for example, which would be a 4 to the floor. Funny. Let's do fourth notes. So now we have triplets. Actually, let's do seconds. So now we have triplets on the conga. Let's do a little bit randomness on the velocity. Right? So we can have different step length. And I could also say, okay, this mid conga, this is going to be 5/4. So I'm going to set the step length to 10. So we do 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. No, that doesn't make sense. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, like this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, so now this is in 16th notes, but this is just 5/4. And this runs in 5/4. Let's actually do 8th notes. So now so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. I can't even count that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's running against anything that we know here. Let's make it louder. Maybe that helps. So, and due to the timing offset and different rhythms, you can really create like ever evolving rhythms with that kind of stuff. Let's delete this, set this back to 16th. And I mean, we can go bonkers. We can have like a 15 16s running on this one. Let's put the conga on regular 16th notes. Let's make this a little bit more even. So, and we can randomly fill this, by the way. So just select some presets and the mid conga. Before we go random crazy 15 16, we can also do Euclidean rhythms. If you don't know what that is, you can have a different amount of pulses over time. So it equally distributes the amount of pulses. So if I do 1, we have 1 on the 1, right? If I do 2, we have on the 1 and on the 2. That makes a lot of sense. If I do 3, now suddenly we're shifting a little bit, right? So we have, and the idea is to try to come up with the same space between the amount of notes. So if I do 5, it tries to put 5 notes over the course of a bar. If I do 6, and it's not the same as if you were to put like a 6/8 on top of it. And it really gets interesting when you go to like 7. And maybe have the high conga doing 5. And then we can rotate this and move this to a different position. We are overall getting a little loud, so I could just take the pre-gain down a little bit. Same thing. I could also, since this is now becoming a little bit too much for my taste, I can bring down the probability. So don't play every step of the way. Just play a few times every now and then. So give me a little bit variation. So now you get ongoing evolve in the rhythm. Something along the line of this. So it's just a matter, you can see, or hopefully you can see, I can see that this is going to be a lot of fun. Creating patterns, moving around stuff, and I haven't even loaded a different preset or anything. So that was the first preset that you can load. So if I can apparently can, oh, I have to be on here. So now I can change the, no, I cannot change the preset. Why can I not change the preset? Drum machine. There we go. So if I click on a different preset, unfortunately, it seems there is no left and right to change the preset on here. Not sure if that's possible here. If I open it in its own window, apparently not. So I can only chop dust. I mean, this is so much creative freedom, and that's with a delivered kits. So you can create your own kits, which makes it even more interesting. Also possible to fast edit note, pitch, and pattern editor. Good question. Let's see. I can do the repeats of the probability, velocity, variance, gate, velocity. There's no pitch control in the pattern editor. So when I say, for example, I have 16th hi-hats, let's randomize that. So, okay, we have 16th hi-hat, randomize the velocity a little bit. I think the only way how you would be able to change the pitch is through the actual pad itself, where we do have a pitch control, I guess. Yeah, tune. I just right-clicked and said add to pattern automation. Tune. Here we go. We can. We just have to assign it in the pad. So now we can change the pitch in the pattern. Yeah, that works. So you can change the pitch in the pattern. You just have to assign it as a modulation source. That's really cool. I like that a lot. So if you do trap beats and things like that, and by the way, you can also have repeats on certain notes. So we say we do 2 repeats here and 3 repeats here. And then additionally with the pitch shifting, me, holy sh! I didn't even know that. That's pretty cool. That's really cool. So if we say, let's not do 4 to the floor, but this. And by the way, the pitch lane is only available to the lane where I added it on the drum machine. So it is not available on the kick, for example, because I didn't put it there. So if I want to have some way of pitching the snare, for example, with a snare fill, I would need to go to the drum machine, go to the snare, go to my tune and say assign step automation for snare 1 tune. So now that I clicked that, I can go back to my editor, and now on the snare, now I have a tune lane in here, right? As with my hi-hat. So I could say duplicate this pattern for me, please. And on this pattern, I'm gonna do a snare fill for the last half of the track. So I'm gonna change the probability here so that it's playing all the time. But then I go to my pitch and I could bring this down. And I could even say here you're gonna give me 2 repeats on the snare, and here you give me also 2. So, and then I'm gonna cut this at the end here and make this pattern 3. So now suddenly we have that's crazy. I love it. I love it. I mean, obviously you can see that Steinberg is targeting a different demographic with these updates. It's not necessarily orchestral and film score producers, but honestly, why not? I mean, put some decent strings underneath that and you immediately get some underscore vibes, right? If you bit crush the heck out of that or filter a little more, maybe let's add... I was about to add Cable Guy's Shaper Box, but actually Steinberg does have their own version of that plugin. So let's see. Again, something where I forgot the name. Is it obvious that I don't often utilize stock plugins? Because for a lot of these, I do have like the third-party solutions, so I don't necessarily need to jump onto the stock plugins, which has nothing to do with their value or how good or not good they are. They are really, really good, especially the Steinberg ones. But I think it's effects modulator. Yeah, that's the one. So this is basically the Steinberg internal version of the Cable Guys Shaperbox. If you don't know, Shaperbox is an amazing plugin. I really like it, where you can, from simple ducking, sidechain effects, pan modulation. It's a little bit what you can do with Steinberg now with the integrated modulators. So you don't need to spend money on third party, and the same type of effect already comes with Steinberg, and that is since Cubase 13. So we can say, let's change the panning, for example, on the overdrive. So I'm adding overdrive. I'm telling the time to be 4 bars, and over 4 bars, I want the overdrive to kind of rise and go back down. So, and that means now I can play the drum loop. Obviously, we're getting a little loud here. And I need to have that on 2 bars. Give me a little more. I'm not hearing anything right now. Why is that not working? No, not remove. Target drive. Okay, let's delete this. Remove, yes. Let's start with a filter. Oh, know what? This is actually affecting stuff I think in the channel strip. Let's see if that works the way I intended. Okay, the filter works. Okay, we have different curves. So I could, for example, start on the top and say, okay, just go down in the end there. So kind of like, you get the idea, right? You could play around and then you can add other different modules. Let's play around with the width a little bit. And these are tempo independent. So this one can be at 4 bars while this one is sitting at 2 bars, which is pretty cool. So it changes the width there. And then last but not least, we could add a little bit of reverb, but also again, let's do this in 4 bars, and we add the reverb only at the last position. So give me just a little bit of reverb in the end there. So like this. So when we now play, the only thing that I haven't really figured out is how I can have these sync. And by the way, look at all these banks that you can have here. So you can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 different modules. I need to figure out how to make sure that this starts upon playback. So, I mean, I showed you, you can do this here. So let's delete this and use the one that I always use, which is Shaperbox. But the principle is the very same. So now I can go in and say, yeah, we want to do a little bit of panning, but not as much. So let's go with a little less, like this, and do this over 4 bars. So, and now we have time is a great effect as well. And there's tons of presets in here that really mess with your audio. And it's all in real time, which I really like. That's pretty cool. But the time mode here, this is something that I really adore. Because if I set this to 4 bars and say, okay, give me just a little bit of change on this last bar. So change the timing here. Actually, let's go like this. Just on the very last moment. There we go. So what happens now is, so it gives me some timing glitch effects. That's very ridiculous, redonkulous. I would need to move this here. I think then we are in time with the plugins. So if I bring that up again, yeah. That's pretty cool. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right, so that is the pattern editor. We spent a lot of time on that, sorry for that. And I think we're slowly going towards the end. Let me quickly check the Steinberg website if I did miss anything else that we should look at. So we looked at the modulators, the groove plugin, the beat machine, these 2 plugins, the scoring. Gain staging we haven't looked at yet, but there's numerous videos on YouTube already, which is the Pro Tools version of chopping audio or changing different parts of the audio without chopping it. That's what I want to say. We looked at the mixing console, auto filter. It's fine. These 2 are like, I don't really feel that they're huge additions. We talked about the preview, range improvements. Haven't really looked into that. And yeah, update from Cubase 13 is 99, including that. So I think I paid like 84 or something like that for the update. Really, in a long while for me, this is one of the best updates that Steinberg has ever done. We are still missing the can you show the new ruler track feature, please? Yeah, sure. So basically, it's very simple. I already have a ruler track here in the session. Actually, let's remove this. So I can add a new ruler track and either bars and beats. And the first thing, and that is new, is I can offset. Well, I cannot offset the bars and beats. I would obviously have to set it to seconds. I can offset the timing for this for the second ruler, which wasn't possible before. Before it was linked. For example, I start all my sessions on bar 3. I always leave 2 bars in the beginning of MIDI information and all that kind of stuff. So if I have a reel for film that I'm gonna score, I always had to fiddle around with where was it? Project setup, and then here time offset. I had to go in here to adjust it. Right now, it's so much more convenient because I can just click this little button here. I have to activate the time offset, and then I can click the second button here, and this puts my 0 position at the current cursor. So right now, that is all. Now it is in time. if I were to open a video window where we don't have a video right now. So if I were to have a video here, it would start at the same position as the video, at 0. This is a true time changer. Time saver, not changer. Time saver, game changer, time saver. You know what I mean. So, and then we can deactivate this and then we are back to normal. So if I say I want to have a track that is exactly 1 minute 30 in 84 BPM. So I'm at 84 BPM. I have no idea where my timing is or how long the track is going to be. So I am activating this and I'm setting my 0 position exactly on my 3rd bar. So now I know exactly wait a second, something is off here. So if I set this to time, I'm at 0.5. Why am I at 0.5? That's weird. I'm gonna... Oh, and apparently I can offset the bars here as well. That's weird. Let's go back to seconds. So turn this off. So I go back here. So this is 0. All right. So now I go back to my 3 position. This is 0 now. Doesn't work. Something is off here. I like that quite a lot, especially on the slower tempo. That was fun. Funny. Not sure what's going on with the ruler track there, so I'm not worried too much about it. Something is off there. Kind of like thing like that. So back here, deleting that stuff we don't need. No education. That's 16th notes. Probably, yeah. Oh, I have, yeah, hard quantize. Let's do this in octave. So now with the beat, let's see. I like that a lot. And yeah, just to recap, the scoring template that I'm working in here right now is currently on sale, 50% off through my own Black Friday sale. Link is in the video description below. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments, of course. And just adding a few more percussion here, maybe a little bit of brass. So let's see, trailer horns. Could add this, and if we move this You kind of get the idea. Then I could go to my sound effects, activate a 2-bar whoosh. Which currently is not working. Why is it? Why is it not working? Oh, I should have waited because it's 2 bars. It's waiting for it to start. So putting it here. So with that little groovy thingy, we got some stuff going on here. Chopped dust. There you go. I just realized that it renames the track if I select a preset, which is pretty convenient. I didn't know that. So if we go to the drum machine and for whatever reason change the preset to the next one, it changes the name of the track. That's nice. Very clever, Steinberg. Thanks for that. Unfortunately, changing the preset changes my insert effects. That I don't like. Something to keep in mind. So can I undo my preset change? No, I cannot. Or can I? No, apparently not. Okay, I didn't know that. So something I just learned, when you change the preset and have some insert effects going, it deletes the insert effects. I don't know how I feel about that. That is something I would need to look into further. Because if you have a drum plugin and you can't even undo it. So, that's something I need to figure out. So actually, let's try this. So let's put a filter on top here. Say I have my EQ for my drums. Oh, I like that. Oh, that's cool. That's a telephone effect and stuff like that, right? So yeah, awesome, awesome, cool. That's great. So have that. So, right, cool. Okay, now let's try a different sound here. Let's see, maybe Detroit Beginnings. Yeah, exactly what's happening. It's deleting the inserts on the channel. Because it's not a instrument preset, it's channel preset. It's a whole track preset with everything loaded. But that also means, and worst thing, maybe if I undo it here. No, there's no undo for that. So if you have a kit with inserts loaded and then change it, your settings are basically lost. So that is something I would probably report to Steinberg. I don't think that this is the intended behavior. Because that's very strange. That's like changing a patch in Omnisphere and forgetting to name the track, so you never find that patch again that you used before. Yeah, definitely gonna get in touch with Steinberg and let them know about this. I think this is not fully intentional, this behavior, that it entirely changes the entire channel to change the drum preset. It's like changing a piano patch in Contact. So if I changing a brass patch. So if I go in here and load a different brass, I go to my default view, say, okay, I'm going to change that to Cinebrass, and then it deletes my entire chain here. That would be ridiculous. So yeah, that's definitely something to look out for and to be aware of. Other than that, that shall conclude our little look at Cubase 14. Final words. Xenos, I didn't investigate further. I may have found a bug with that. So if I go back, set this to the 0 position here. Okay, now it's correct. This is my 0 position. If I go to bar 10 and say this is my 0 position, it does not really do what it's supposed to do. Or is it 0 now? Where's my time? I can change the top. No, it's not changing. It's not changing to 0. Something is a little weird there. The time is still at 0 there. Maybe let's delete this. Okay, and add a new ruler track. Okay, so now this is sitting at 0 here. So if I say you here, this is my 0 position. This, okay, with the new ruler track it works. So maybe because I changed the time afterward, I think it's a bug. So if I go to back to 120 and say, okay, actually my 0 position is here. Okay, now it works. Who knows what went wrong there? In the end, it's all just ones and zeros, right? So let's go there. Thanks for tuning in. I'm gonna close this for tonight. Hopefully it was a little bit insightful to have a look at Cubase 14. From my end, highest praise and highest recommendations for the Steinberg team. For me, it personally got me back to Cubase from using Studio 1.7 for quite a while. Biggest selling point for me is the DAW performance. This is just ridiculously better than Cubase 13. And some of these new features, the pattern editor, the drum sequencer, overall the appearance, the snappiness, the reaction time, it seems to be much more stable and loads faster, closes faster. I'm really happy with Cubase 14. You have a 60-day free trial if you want to try it for yourself. Nothing to lose there, besides time in checking it out. From my end, highest recommendations. I really like this new update. And I forgot to mention the score editor is amazing as well. Very, very good. All right, that shall conclude today. You all have a wonderful rest of the day, and I see you soon. Bye-bye.